Washington is known for its rich history in the logging industry, which played a significant role in the development of the state. It has roots in the demand of lumber from the gold rush. These early years of forest exploitation were replaced by an understanding of sustainable timber harvests. The combination of forest preservation and profiting from the resources has defined Washington ever since. Logging and forest management have evolved over time and continue to change and progress. On June 12, 1941, the nation's first tree farm was dedicated. 120,000 acres owned by Weyerhaeuser Timber Company called the Clemens Tree Farm. This dedication in Montesano, Washington, launched a nationwide movement, and over the next few decades it would expand across all 50 states. Tree farmer was coined as a way for non-foresters to understand what was done. Farmers grow crops, tree farmers grow crops of trees. Tree farms are marked with green and white diamond signs, used to communicate its status and the message that a tree farm grows a sustainable crop. Please join us in celebrating our 75th anniversary and the tree farmers and families that have continued to represent the values of the Washington Tree Farm.
Hi, I'm Tom Westergreen, live up here in Sumas, Washington, and we've got several tree farms. One is Westergreen Tree Farms Incorporated, and my wife Bonnie and I have South Pass Tree Farms. And my great-grandfather, Gus Westergreen, immigrated from Sweden as a young man, and he came across Canada, came to this area, crossed into the United States near Sumas, and he worked a number of different jobs, fishing, logging, on the railroads. And after about 3 years of that, he ended up coming up the South Pass Road where we live now, and really there wasn't a road there beyond where the road was, and setting up a homestead, and that was in 1888. And then in 1920, his son Albert, my grandfather, took over the homestead. And the one thing about the homestead at that time is we always wonder why he came to this valley here. And the one story that we're sticking with is on this end of Sumas Mountain, there's some of these large cliffs, and at that time, most of it was burned over, so a lot of the rocks were exposed. So the family story is it reminded him of Sweden, and that's why he chose this particular place. My dad, Richard, he didn't move far from home. He moved across the road and started doing the same thing as his father and grandfather did. They his family bought a house, but then started buying timberland. So when myself and my two brothers when we were raised, we spent all our time on the family tree farm.
Hello, my name is Patty Playfair, and this is my dad, Bob Playfair. We are the family tree farm known as Rafter 7 Ranch in Chewelah, Washington. Our tree farm was established in 1962. It was first certified in 1962. It was started by my grandparents, Alexia and Ralph Playfair, in 1929, 1930. They started with a half section, 320 acres, from which they cut ponderosa pine in the winter using a crosscut saw. They logged 100,000 board feet in the first winter that they were married. Over the years, we're then able to purchase more property, and then in 1960 we had quite a increase in our land base by a pretty crafty deal in which we traded some overstory timber to a mill, who then paid a landowner for her land, and then we got the land. That was an increase of 2,500 acres. I'd like to be able to do that kind of deal again.
I'm Ken Miller. We got into tree farming in 1990 with 30-acre clear cut that Bonnie and I and our son planted 18,000 trees on every weekend for about 3.5 months. Then we ultimately bought 40 acres here that we live on in Thurston County. And I've been living here for about 22 years. Small landowners matter because we're about half of the private forest landowners in Washington State, around 3 million acres. There's 200,000 of us doing all kinds of different things. We tend to grow our trees a little longer because we're doing a lot more things than just pure financial. So we tend to grow them longer. We harvest our trees when we need the money, usually. So we tend to have a lot more diversity of management, diversity of tree species, we tend to have older trees. And we're also a buffer between the typically upland forested areas and the urban zones.
People that are involved in the tree farm program and farm forestry are just a great bunch of people to be around, and it's always kind of a learning curve. A lot of the things we learn is from our neighbors, so it's neighbors, helping neighbors kind of a thing. And so that's why I've always wanted to participate if I can help others and learn from others. So one of the things, like I was saying, is really is great about small landowners is we all do things a little bit different. There's like 215,000 small landowners in the state of Washington owning over 5 acres. And so what I've told other groups is, so the different objectives we have, there's probably 215,000 different objectives for the way we manage our land. And some of us, manage it pretty intensively. There's some that do it similar to the large landowners, and then others are just maybe for the preservation, just the love of the land. So there's that whole gamut and everything in between. Those small landowners, I think, really provide more for wildlife, clean water, and also recreation opportunities, all those things that the tree farm program stands for.
Tree farms are important because they're what grows the forest for the next generation. And if you plant a tree today, you're not going to benefit from it. All it's going to do is cost you money to plant it, take care of it for 50 years, and then your grandkids or great-grandkids will get the benefit of it.
I think tree farms also really represent family. I think there's something really important about a place where the family has spent so much time nurturing that forest. It's a really big link in a family. And so keeping the kids out there, bringing the kids out, letting them plant those trees, name those trees, watch those trees grow, are what's going to keep them coming back to the place where their parents grew up or their grandparents took them for walks.